The first thing we're going to talk about today is the gray zone, right? So the gray zone, we showed you this before. So when we had Max on last week, we showed you this guy, Paul Mason. Now, he's a journalist. He's like a celebrity journalist who is from the UK, who poses as a lefty. What he really is a tool of the military-industrial complex. And he works with people in the intelligence community, in the government, and he works with people at places like PayPal and YouTube and stuff like that to censor anti-war voices or anybody telling the truth about anything, pretty much, that goes against the establishment narrative. So that's who he is, and we've revealed you that what happened is the Gray Zone got a hold of some emails that showed him planning all this stuff and trying to deplatform the Gray Zone, wanting to take away their PayPal account. In fact, here it is. So we showed you this. It says, I'm combined with relentless deplatforming. That's from him, Paul Mason. He wants to do relentless deplatforming of people. So that's pretty fascist, right? You want to end free speech? Yes. As with PayPal and Compendium and Mint Press, a kind of permit.
He means consortium.
Is that what he means? Consortium? Okay.
Yeah, So Consortium News and Mint Press, as you've covered, were removed without explanation from PayPal. So he wants to do that with us.
That's right. So that's who that guy is. And he gets a lot of people deplatformed. He gets a lot of people's videos taken down. He gets a lot of people demonetized, right? So just like with this, we just showed you. And here's another person who talked about it. Wyatt Reed said, less than 24 hours have passed since my first ever criticism of Paul Mason, and I was just permanently banned from PayPal as well. So you have a new article out. We got some more emails, some more leaks. We found out some more stuff that Paul Mason is involved with. And it says Mason and the UK State Operative Plan Integrity Initiative 2.0. Oh. Leaked emails expose Paul Mason's collusion with senior British intelligence agent. So that's what. Here's the highlights of the article, but I want to show you this. They put together this, right? So these are the people they think are all bad, and they're passing Russian disinformation. They're you tell me what it is. It's the entire Muslim community. It's the young networked left. I don't know what that means. I'm going to guess I'm in that.
Online, I went into a Paul Mason hole, and that's one of his pet. I think he invented that term. It's like all these YouTubers and like breadtubers or whatever. Like,
okay,
like the Brooklyn left.
Yeah, right.
The what left, Max?
The Brooklyn left, Max.
The Brooklyn left, yeah.
Yeah,
then there's then there's the labor left. Then there's trade unions. The black community trouble. They're problematic. The black community.
Super predators.
Yeah. So yeah, they're super predators. So there's.
How does he have the whole black community and not Patriot Front?
Right. Well, because they're not a problem. They're all for everything that this guy's for. They're all for the Ukraine war, Yemen war, all that stuff. They're for sanctions on Russia, and then they all center around stop the war and Jeremy Corbyn. So that's who they really hate. So here's another. So let's go back to. Let's take it one by one. In leaked emails, celebrity journalist Paul Mason plots extensively with Andy Price of the Foreign Office Counter Disinformation and Media Development Unit, also known as the CDMD, the Counter Disinformation and Media Development Unit. Price's Counter Disinformation Unit has been cloaked behind a veil of near total secrecy since its inception. And let me just show you what they do. I said do. So the official parliamentary disclosures of the CDMD existence were triggered by the 2018 leak of incriminating files related to Integrity Initiative, a cloak and dagger Foreign Office information warfare operation staffed by former military and intelligence professionals. Price featured prominently in documents related to this operation. And this operation, those files showed that Integrity Initiative maintained clandestine clusters throughout Europe and North America, covert networks of journalists, academics, pundits, politicians, and security officials. And they would use these people to through its ceaseless black propaganda about enemy states such as China, Russia, and individuals, including then Labor leader Jeremy Corbyn and WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, could be spread with damaging real-world effects. So I show you that because I want you to know what these people are up to. So these people are up to a propaganda war using ceaseless black propaganda, meaning you don't know where it comes from, you don't know the real purpose of it, you don't know where it originated from, but it's disseminated through all these types of people, covert networks of journalists, academics, pundits, politicians, security officials, and YouTubers. Don't kid yourself. They've done that too since.
Connected left, he calls them.
He calls them the network left.
Yeah.
So no, that's not who. That's not who's working with these people. So you catch on what's happening. So they're using all these different types of people in all these different professions, but they're all connecting them to what? To manufacture consent for the oligarchy's war and neoliberalism and imperialism. That's what this comes down to, right? And now Max Blumenthal, Kit Klarenberg, and the Gray Zone are starting to peel the onion off, and we're starting to see how this kind of stuff works. So now, Max, so after we reported on this, right, the story you did in the Gray Zone, you and Kit Clarendon did at the Gray Zone, they then you did a video where you talked about it.
Yeah.
Now tell us what happened with that video on YouTube and the audio podcast on iTunes too.
Yeah, me and Aaron Mate did a live stream just like the one you're doing. It's 2.5 hours long, and it was removed from YouTube. It was a discussion of Mason Gate and these emails, completely factual discussion. It was removed from YouTube. First time we've ever had anything removed at the Gray Zone's channel. On the grounds of bullying and harassment, in complete violation of YouTube's terms of use and its policy on bullying and harassment. I protested, I filed an appeal, and they put the video back on. 25 minutes later, I got another notice telling me they'd taken the video back down. And I think we know why based on these emails.
Why? Tell us.
Well, you can throw the email up there. So if you look in the second paragraph, look at the third sentence.
The ban of Russian stuff on YouTube that was announced yesterday started with me pushing it at the beginning of the week. There it is.
So this is how we know Andy Price is still involved in spook work, that he's able to compel YouTube to remove material that he doesn't like. And Kit Klarenberg should have a piece up tomorrow explaining his connection to a new highly secretive counter-disinformation unit that took credit for removing RT and other Russian networks from YouTube because they were so dangerous to British media consumers. So you can see his power here. And now they're moving towards the relentless deplatforming that they planned, because why? We exposed their plans to harass and bully us. And so here you have him bragging about removing quote unquote Russian stuff on YouTube. He clearly has the power to go to some contact at YouTube, some liaison, some security state liaison, and tell them, get this stuff out of there. And so that's clearly, in my mind, what happened with me and Aaron's factual journalism that we were discussing on our YouTube channel. It's the first time it's ever happened to us. We've been threatened with a strike.
And so the chain of events would be that Andy Price, that guy that Paul Mason's working with, and he's on this email. This is an email to him, to Paul Mason, the guy that we've all exposed. And this is Andy Price, who's working inside that intelligence office inside the UK government, right? That's who this is?
Yes.
Okay.
It's definitely him.
And there's a guy inside the intelligence apparatus, inside the UK government, in conversation with that guy, Paul Mason.
Paul Mason, who's one of he's the celebrity left journalist of the UK. I don't know who his equivalent in the US would be, because he's
Keith Olbermann.
I mean, now he's clearly at Keith Olbermann levels of psychosis,
right?
Except unlike Keith Olbermann, I don't think Olbermann would be able to maintain this level of cloak and dagger behavior.
Did you ever I told you I watched so many Paul Mason videos, and one is hilarious because he tosses in little, like, what we have to look out for. And after he gets done naming all the scary fascists, such as gamers is one of the main threats, he throws in eco-fascists. And you're like, wait, what did you just say? Like, eco-fascists? What's that? And he's like, people that are crazy about the environment.
Yeah, not the people who are ruining the environment. The people who want to save the environment. Those are the crazy fascists. Not the people. Not the people raping the land. Not the people raping the land for profit. The people who want to stop the raping of the land for profit. They're the fascists. Do you see how people misuse that term left and right? Yes.
Well, eco-fascists. That's why it says eco in front of it.
That's right. So, all right. So there he is, the ban on Russian stuff on YouTube. So there's an email, and now we know there's a direct connection from YouTube and video demonetization, video censorship, deplatforming. There's a direct connection from YouTube to the intelligence community. Now,
Yes,
that's what this establishes.
Yes.
You've already established it before that they were funding people to do videos that were trying to discredit people who were pushing back against the COVID narrative, right? Anybody who had an counter to Big Pharma's propaganda narrative, if you had which we did at the Jimmy Dore Show, we definitely do. Big Pharma and Fauci and the government have been lying about COVID since it started. And so they were funding people to then do YouTube videos to discredit people like me. And
they were creating an entire program for them, like an entire platform. It wasn't just like giving them money. It was like crafting it. And the person who was overseeing this project is the other intelligence contact of Paul Mason, Amil Khan, who is a contractor he gets all these British and US state contracts to attack people who interfere with the official narrative. That guy. And he set up all these Syrian opposition media outlets in Syria that were connected to the armed opposition. I mean, this is someone who's been heavily involved in British Infowar projects. And him and Mason were planning an anti-gray zone summit in London to get all the people together, including Bellingcat, who hate us and want to take us down, to figure out a way. I don't know what way they would conceive of. I mean, why doesn't Mason just, call in a drone strike on us, since he seems to have that level of power? But they were planning to try to coordinate some takedown of the gray zone. And this guy, it's important that you brought up COVID and the whole COVIDian biosecurity regime, because a lot of this counter disinformation work before the war in Ukraine was focused on COVID. And the counter disinformation unit that we believe Price is part of now was heavily focused on taking down influencers and social media accounts that were skeptical of the official narrative on COVID. And now it's transferred over to Ukraine.
So I think that's the big news of this story. To me, the big news is you have concrete evidence proof through a leaked email to the gray zone from these two people, this guy who's he's intelligence inside the UK government with this celebrity journalist, Paul Mason, who we've now revealed to be a phony left-winger who's actually working for the security state and trying to deplatform anybody who has a counter narrative to the establishment. And so to me, that's the big story here.
Yeah.
And then we've got it, and we did it. And you did it. I didn't do it. You did it.
Well, we did what the police in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, failed to do with Patriot Front to Paul Mason. We unmasked him and unmasked him as a security state front. I mean, this guy, Andy Price, appears to be his handler. And Andy Price has done everything he can to stay out of the public view. So the existence of Andy Price in his department is frightening enough, but it's even more disturbing that he's going back and forth and collaborating with someone who poses as this leader of the left who was planning to run for parliament on Labor.
Yeah.
Who claims to lead trade unions and leftists across Europe against fascism in a plot to neutralize the British left. I mean, this is I think, one of the biggest media scandals of the year. And so the UK press has been all over it. Everyone in the UK press is talking about it, and zero of them are reporting on it.
What?
Possibly because the security state put a D notice on it, which means you're not allowed to report on it.
That's an official thing called a D notice. What does the D stand for?
I actually don't know what the D stands for, but they have a committee who determines whether D notices are applied, and they're journalists and media professionals and security state people, which shows how already integrated the security state is with the British media. And I'll give you an example of a D notice that was applied after Sergei Skripal, the turncoat former Russian spy, was poisoned in Salisbury, England. A D notice was placed on the name of his MI6 handler, and his name was Pablo Miller. Pablo Miller was an associate at Orbis Intelligence of Christopher Steele, which raised a lot of interesting questions about the whole case. So no one in the British press could do that. I mean, Israel does that as well. They basically embargo certain names and issues if it's related to the security. And, there are 5 reasons why the state can impose a D notice, and 3 of them seem to relate to this piece, which includes the revelation of the names of intelligence assets.
I mean, so of course this all makes sense. Like, of course we always suspected things like this were happening, and we just needed the evidence, and now we have the evidence. And there's
go ahead. I have a question. That was a Proton Mail account or something? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. So you know what Proton Mail is, right?
No.
So Proton Mail is secured mail, right? You're not supposed to be able. So obviously this is someone who had access to his computer, or somebody who might even be on an email chain. Somebody had access to maybe the state computer in this UK office. Somebody had access to their computers and got these. Go ahead.
Somebody, I was watching somebody, and somebody said he's like an idiot that didn't 2-factor authenticate his Proton Mail or something. They were like trashing him that he screwed up and left his thing vulnerable, and that's how this leaked out.
Oh, yeah. Is that how this happened? He didn't do the thing you're supposed to do to make sure it's protected?
Well, I don't know how it happened. I have no idea.
It's a comment. Somebody else.
Bellingcat. Well, one of the main guys at Bellingcat, Nick Waters, is mocking and basically trashing Paul Mason, because Bellingcat's really embarrassed because in Mason's emails he's proposing Bellingcat as intelligence by proxy.
Yes, right.
To be involved in these information warfare operations, and so he's basically saying what Bellingcat is,
right,
which is just a proxy of the intelligence services to give it plausible deniability. And get material out there in the public and make it look like it's some journalistic investigation. And by the way, D notice stands for a defense notice. It was originally called a defense notice, and or defense and security media advisory notice. And so the DSMA committee is what I was referring to. That's
okay.
What determines these. I know I always get like a bunch of emails if I don't know something.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed. I'm like, if you don't know, who the hell am I supposed to ask now? So let's look at some more. I have
Ask Jackson.
Okay, so let's look at another email. A Ukrainian friend and colleague has shared an idea with me along the lines of what we were talking about the other day. An international information brigade, a civil society organization with contacts into government, but not controlled by government, that would be the major forward-leaning player in the information war, be the beneficiary of intelligence, but also help guide governments, be funded by a collective from like-minded Western countries, perhaps through cutouts. We need 3 things. So he wants an unaccountable. What he wants is the governments to fund an unaccountable agency that's going to do some more of this nefarious stuff. That's what that sounds like to me, right?
Yep. I mean, they're probably already doing it, but we helped expose the Integrity Initiative back in 2018. That's why the card for this piece reads Integrity Initiative 2.0, because that's what this is. It's an unaccountable, covert government agency which functions like a propaganda mill or a troll farm that secretly involves journalists and political actors and churns out dirt against anyone who interferes with war, the drive for war with Russia, pushes for increased security posture and escalating the defense budget, and pretty much pumps out black propaganda, but makes it seem like it's legitimate or organic because they work through cutouts. That's what the Integrity Initiative was. So after it was exposed, it was operating behind a think tank called the Institute for Statecraft through a fake address that was actually based at a old abandoned mill in rural UK. Chris Williamson, who was then a member of parliament, went out to the address to show that it was a completely fake place. And then we at the Gray Zone sent a reporter, Mohammed El Mazi, to the real address at the Institute of Statecraft, and he found that this was a multi-million-dollar think tank operation hiding within one of the most guarded locations in London, and they were the front for the Integrity Initiative. So here they are, one of a kind of not very public-facing intelligence official, unaccountable to the public, colluding with a famous British journalist to create the second incarnation of the Integrity Initiative. And that's what I think the other major reveal of this story is.
Yeah, let's remember the Integrity Initiative, right? So it was this clandestine intelligence operation out of the UK. And didn't they also infiltrate Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign?
Well, I can't confirm that. What we were able to show was that
there was a guy who worked for Statecraft, was working for the Bernie Sanders campaign, and they did puff pieces on him in the news in the United States.
Yeah,
and the guy was saying he was just here on vacation, and he's a good-minded fellow, and he wants to work for this guy Bernie Sanders, and of course he's from frickin' British intelligence.
He was definitely sus. I mean, he was 100% suspect. He had previously also worked or tried to work for Jeremy Corbyn, but his politics, I mean, he actually gave, I mean, it's amazing. He gave a presentation at a secret meeting that we uncovered in Seattle at the Seattle Westin. I mean, we found out about the meeting through these leaked emails, and he opened the presentation, and this was a guy who was working for Bernie Sanders, and he's calling for massive defense budgets to wage conventional warfare with Russia. And then who comes up after him in this presentation is this character, Alexander Reed Ross, who's gone after you and smeared you at the Daily Beast and smeared me and said we're all in this Putin-directed red-brown alliance and so on. So, I mean, there are just so many amazing layers to this story, but that's what the Integrity Initiative was. And at the highest level, the Integrity Initiative actually stopped the nomination of a key Spanish defense official to the Spanish National Security Council and claimed credit for it by activating its Spanish cluster in a smear operation. It also they presented false testimony attempting to link Julian Assange. They presented false testimony in British Parliament attempting to link Julian Assange to the referendum or the independence movement of Catalonia, claiming that Russia was behind all of it. You get the point.
Yes.
So Mason wants to do more of this. It's all publicly funded. The British taxpayer would be funding this without knowing it.
So here's another email where he talks about Bellingcat. This is kind of funny. He said, if public its credibility, like Bellingcat's, would rely entirely on its independence from government funding and the diversity of its appearance. He's talking about this new thing. However, if you adopted the Matryoshka approach.
Matryoshka? Oh, the Russian nesting doll approach?
Is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah. It's like working through front organizations, and at the core
is Paul Mason.
is Paul Mason.
Here he says, the opposition are not stupid. They can spot an info operation. So the more this is designed to be organic, the better. So
it's not organic if it's designed to be.
He's literally talking about lying to the public, using deception, and he's embracing Russian tactics right there. The Russian nesting doll.
That's right. Let's see what else we got. So that's it. That's all I put together.
We're not stupid. I mean, we recognize the info op, and you're it, Paul Mason.
Yeah. So so you want me to show this?
This is bonkers.
So Andy, huge apologies to your last message went to my spam. That's how it starts. Thanks for the stuff on how to deal with Tories and disinformation. We'll try to operationalize it. I now think the election in early 2024 as economic cycle is going to be awful for government. I've ended up getting on Gray Zone's radar just for mentioning them in my debunk of the Jacques Bond article. They've coordinated a smear campaign against me. Telling the truth is not a smear campaign. What you do is smear campaigns for the oligarchy and the military-industrial complex and the security state. What the Gray Zone does is reveal your lies. Those aren't smears. Those are called truths.
Well, he had just called for state action against us in a column. I mean, he's calling for the highest level of McCarthyism. So people got upset with what he said. I mean, I just said, if he wasn't calling for state action against us, we wouldn't be doing our job because this guy's a little snitch.
He can't even.
I don't remember devoting much energy to it. He acts like, we're this vast information warfare operation. We're the Death Star and we control all of these assets.
People like that can't get in their head that somebody's not exactly what they are.
Yes.
So he can't imagine someone would just be reporting on truth.
Right. That's right.
It's not some kind of war against
or if you call for someone's destruction at the hands of the state because of their opinions and you're totally undemocratic in public, that people are going to push back. That's what we didn't coordinate that. People were just pissed off.
They're spinning that. I seen that video on MSNBC, Jimmy, with that ex-W. Bush reporter, and they're talking about those guys from Patriot Front, and they bring in these FBI people to talk about, this is just the beginning of violence happening.
Yeah, I saw that. I know.
Control what rhetoric, it's all for that.
Yeah. By the way, since you brought up Patriot Front, they actually started organizing around Capitol Hill. It's a few years ago, like 2 years ago, and it was all focused on pushing for an Afghan withdrawal. And they were trying to organize anti-war activity. So it immediately looked suspect to me. There were stickers all over Capitol Hill saying that. And then I saw who they were. I mean, nothing can be more suspect than that.
So I think we got the point out.
It just goes on. I mean, he's talking about infiltrating leftist conferences in Madrid, and he's reporting. I mean, this is a report back to the intelligence official who appears to be his handler.
Yeah. So he says the Madrid conference does not seem to have created any traction for a wider "Don't Arm Ukraine" movement, as the scale of atrocities and the decisiveness of Lloyd Austin and Blinken's response has wrong-footed many of the Stalinist left. That's what he refers to us. The whole episode is sending Die Link Germany into meltdown, losing seats.
Die Linke.
Losing seats. It's a shame, as their soft power arm, Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung, has done good work in both Russia and Ukraine, and indeed elsewhere for Western values, but politically they are effed. I feared the following. Putin announces on May 9th he will use tactical nukes if arms don't stop from Germany, France, and etc. Far left in EP move resolution ending arms sales, etc., and mobilize people on the streets. So far, that hasn't happened because the loss of moral support from them is tangible. However, wait until the gas goes off and the food goes short. Worth watching.
And so he knows that there's going to be famine and the gas is going to go off, but that's what he wants.
He wants that to happen because then people
just like all of our elites.
Okay, so even better.
The next one is crazy too. I mean,
even better, the Finnish government is leading the way to NATO, and the far left are staying inside the coalition. I've had a bit to do with this and speak regularly to their defense and security people. A strong argument drawing them to NATO is that they can get to shape the strategic concept once they're in the process. And I am working on the left shadow strategic concept that is hawkish on military, but defensive only on geopolitics and nukes.
What the hell does that mean? I have no idea.
I know what it means. I watched him doing it to some kid on a video. He says all this left wing kind of crap, and he slips in, and we're going to need to spend more on defense. He just almost pops it out. Need more on defense.
Hey, you're job creators.
So,
but, I mean, he's claiming credit for Finland, partial credit for Finland's application to NATO, which is one of the most destructive diplomatic moves this year, where decades and decades of neutrality are going to be surrendered to drive NATO's insane push for World War III. And Paul Mason's claiming he's involved, has security contacts in Finland, and is working with the left there to keep them in this coalition. And then in the next section, he actually, this will be relating to our next piece.
File on 4.
Yeah.
Chloe Hajimathu is doing an investigation into Stop the War's disinformation tactics. I've contributed some critical sound bites, and I expect they will go mad and claim it is all state harassment, etc. So he's saying that the people who are involved with Stop the War, the people who want to stop the wars, are the liars, not the people who want to keep the wars going. They're the truth tellers. He's saying that it's funny that they speak like this, like they don't acknowledge, like, of course they're the truth tellers. We call them to disinformation. They actually act like it's real, what they're saying. Isn't that weird, kind of?
Well, that exactly. And he says they're going to claim state harassment. Well, this pretty much proves
that it is state. That's what this proves.
Stop the War is the major anti-war coalition in the UK. They're connected to the Socialist Workers' Party. They were a force behind getting Corbyn the Labour leadership. They're named on Paul Mason's mental mind map as a key enemy. And so the BBC's Chloe Hadjimateo, about 2 years ago or so, published an 11-piece series on the founder of the White Helmets, who jumped off a balcony apparently after his corruption came to light. He was just taking all this state money and then spending it on lavish living. And it was like an 11-part series that answered no apparent public demand or interest to smear all of the White Helmets critics, including me, painting me as some kind of Russian asset, of course, and then professors in the UK, dissident professors like Tim Hayward, Piers Robinson, Paul McHugh. They function around what they call a propaganda working group, and those same professors are named by Paul Mason in these emails as one of his key targets. He calls them the rogue professors. So this month, Chloe Hadjimateo from the BBC goes after those very rogue professors, as well as Professor Justin Schlossberg, for questioning some of the narratives around the Ukraine war. That's all they did. And she essentially calls for their firing in a 30-minute BBC4 radio program. And now Paul Mason is telegraphing her next line of attack against the main anti-war group, challenging the British state's extremely active role in Ukraine. So it's pretty clear what's going on here and who Chloe Hadjimateo is and who she's really working for. And that needs to be further drilled down because this is all about the state going after private citizens, academics, journalists, activists, anyone who has an opinion that contravenes that of the British Foreign Office and the MI6. That is the opposite of democracy. That is fascism. And so if we want to stop fascism, that's the title of Paul Mason's new book, we need to stop Paul Mason and everyone around him.
Ironically, there's one more here, number 6. He says, do you know Emil Khan of Valente Projects or Valent Projects? He and I are trying to put together a complaint against the Gray Zone.
And lying.
Yes, he and I are lying to put together a complaint against the Gray Zone that might trigger some investigations on the official side of their funding.
The official side. See, we have an official and an unofficial side.
What is your? Yeah, I know. I didn't know you had two sides to your funding. There's the official. You got the books we show to government, and then we got the other books that are real. You know,
that's how you keep your Russian asset money.
Yeah.
Don't worry, they won't get to your Russian rubles.
What about all that Assad money that you guys are hiding?
Yeah, it's
So anyway, that's a great
Assadist crypt. We have Assadist meme coins that we get paid in.
So
I mean, it's insane because he thinks he's going to use the British government. We're not even based in the UK. They don't have any power to investigate us, but he thinks he's going to use them to investigate us and prove something that isn't even there.
Well, the saga continues. This is great reporting. I'm glad you're getting a hold of these emails from this obvious tool of the military-industrial complex and the oligarchs who poses as a lefty. And it's nice that you were able to be a big part of exposing him. And, if not here in the United States, certainly in the UK where he's famous. So people have the information now and they can do with it what they want. Anything you want to say to wrap this up, Max?
Yeah, just really quickly. I mean, if you've been watching this and maybe you got lost in some of the details, try to pay attention to the broader outlines, because this shows you how the media operates in the West, where a lot of what we see is being filtered to us through cutouts or third-party organizations, whether they're media outfits like Bellingcat, figures like Paul Mason, or NGOs like or think tanks like the Atlantic Council, through the state, through its intelligence services. The state doesn't want us to see its fingerprints on anything, especially since the Iraq War and the WMD scandal.
Right.
So everything's going out through third parties that we are supposed to trust, and because nobody trusts the CIA. And so that's what's so important about this story. And then pay attention to who the targets are. The targets are people like me, like Jimmy, anyone who is just acting independently and exposing what the state is doing to deceive us into these devastating wars that are causing record gas prices, record food prices, and dooming an entire generation to hopelessness. Think about it. Any 18-year-old today who doesn't come from money, what hope do they have of buying a house in this economy, or having a family, or having their kids have a good education in this maniacal economy that's being driven by a proxy war of choice? So this is the background noise to keep us in line, to make us consent, and we're exposing the figures behind that noise. And finally, we're not done. Kit Klarenberg and me and Aaron Mate at the Gray Zone, we're going to keep hammering this story. Huge credit to Kit Klarenberg, and check out his other pieces. Operation Surprise, for example. We've exposed other intelligence intrigues that show you how power really works in the UK, and not one mainstream media organization has touched it.
Okay. I look forward to more emails. I hope you get more emails.
but his emails.
But his emails. Hey, we're doing stand-up dates. Salt Lake City, Las Vegas, Chicago, Sacramento, and then San Diego, where I'm taping my new special. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets for all our live shows. We're coming to your town, maybe.